Today on Brilliance Business TV, we have Annette Greenwood. Annette is fondly known as a straight-talking Yorkshire woman with a warm heart, care and compassion. It is through finding her deeply intuitive and spiritual side that she became a life coach. Annette is highly skilled and works globally, empowering women on how to recover from life's personal heartaches and professional setbacks. Her expertise, wisdom, and experience has helped a wide range of women at all stages of life. A regular guest on BBC Radio giving tips, interviews, and advice. Annette also features regularly in magazines and newspapers. Stay tuned. Welcome to Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler, and we have another incredible guest today, Annette Greenwood, who will be coming and joining us shortly. I want to give an official shout out to our show sponsors, Craig Shelley, Beverly Hills, luxury watches and fine jewellery at craigshelley.com. We are streaming live on Facebook, Periscope, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're also on the E360 TV network under Fresh Takes, going out live on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, Android TV, and we're also streaming through MSP News Global. So my guest today is a great friend, Annette Greenwood. She helps her clients that are feeling stuck to move forwards. She's a life coach, and I'm really happy to have you on the Brilliance Business TV show. Welcome, Annette.
Thank you, Mark, for that lovely warm welcome. I'm so excited to join you. So I can't explain how excited I am, really, but it's a great pleasure to be here.
Annette, I'm really looking forward to learning more about you, your business, and how you serve your clients. I would like to go back a little bit because I know you have a great story of challenges that you have gone through that have led you to do what you do today. So can you just share a little bit about your background?
It's my pleasure to share something. I'll try to give little snapshots because there's quite a long story in there. So I will do my best to keep it quite succinct. So going back many years ago into my first marriage, that marriage was quite a compromising relationship. And I won't go into all the details, but it turned out to be a domestic violent relationship. Now, I could kind of look at that and think how bad and what a victim I was, but I didn't. And actually coming out of that relationship was the thing that actually formed my future career. I didn't know it at the time, and I didn't know that I was going to be such a linchpin, I guess, for other women. But that started me on my journey. And I always had this focus sort of kind of going forwards about how, if I'd come through this, other women must be in this position. But it was so many years ago, Matt, that back in the days, I call it, domestic violence wasn't as open and shared as it is these days. So it was very much behind closed doors, and you were almost made to feel ashamed of being in a relationship that was compromising. So moving on from that, I managed to get myself together. I got myself a job. and I was working in a factory, and I always giggle at this because I was packing sugar in this factory, and I found myself in this male-dominated environment where women were there to do a certain job, and that's what you did. And I always rained against that. Despite the kind of what was going on around me and in the environment, I rained against the fact that I shouldn't be able to have a voice. And I felt like my voice was being kept down all the time. So this back in the 80s, there were lots of challenges going on within this particular environment. And I found myself more and more with this voice that wanted to come out, but it was here and it was always stuck. It could never come out, and it just kept getting pushed back down because of where I was and what I was being told that I had to conform to. Anyway, this job, I was made redundant from this job, and I went into a very dark place, which I can share because I think we were talking about that earlier. I can share something about that a bit further on. But we moved area at the same time as well. My husband had been headhunted with his job, and we moved across here to where we're living now. And it was a very, quite a big farming community where we were living at the time. The foot and mouth disease was out for those people who remember it. And it was really not a good time. And I found myself this little job. I thought, I've got to do something. I can't just sit there. So we moved area, found this job. And I'd been in a job when we first moved over there. I'd been given a job in the organisation where my husband worked, and it was a similar experience again, Mark. I was in this environment where I was being held down, and I was having to. My voice was here, but I couldn't share it. I couldn't open myself up to talking about the things that I wanted to. So I ended up getting the sack from there. And to this day, I thank them for that, because it was one of the best things of my life, because that showed me that I was on the right path. There was something about me, something that I had that I couldn't couldn't keep pushing it down. So I went to work in this little shop, and there was all these people coming in at the foot and mouth crisis, and they were all coming in and sharing their stories with me. And I had a natural ability to be able to see through the problem and say, but look, on the other side of this, there might be X, Y, and Z. There'll be something positive come out of this. We can't see it now, but there will. And the guy who owned the shop, he's passed away now, God bless him, but he said, I don't know what you're doing. He said, but since you came to work here, all my bread sales have gone through the roof. All my bread sales and my cakes. He said, I can't keep up with the demand. He said, whatever it is you've got, I don't know what it is, but he says, keep doing it. And people were actually coming in because I was taking the time. I was taking the time to listen to them and to go through the problem with them and help them see through the other side of it. And one of my friends had said, you should become a counsellor. And I didn't want to become a counsellor, Mark. It wasn't my forte, if you like. I knew I had something, but this ability and that I was growing, it had to be on my terms, really, not in a counselling situation. So there was lots of different synchronicities going on at that time, where I saw an advert for a job in a charity in the third sector, as it's called, and it was to work with socially isolated people. So at the same time as I was doing this work at the charity in the third sector. I was doing this work in the shop, and I was training because I knew that I had these skills, I had this experience, I had this knowledge, I had these experiences that had happened to me that I could relate to other people. But I felt if I just do some training around it, make sure I've got all the qualifications in place so people felt confident in me. So I was doing all these three things together. And when I went to take this role on for this charity, I found again that I'd got this natural ability to see an idea, I could take it and I could grow it and I could make it into something. So I started kind of project managing for the charity. So getting these ideas, getting the funding, making it work. And all the projects, I guess, that I was working on were projects that were very close to my heart, all community projects, so isolated people, there was older people, there was women. And I had a very strong passion for kind of working with women and empowering women. These were all these things that were coming to the surface. And I got a phone call one day out of the blue from a women's networking group, and they said they'd heard about the work that I was doing for the charity. And they were interested in me doing some coaching work in a prison. Would I be interested? And I thought, would I be interested? Would I ever? I really love this idea of going into a prison and being able to help, other women. I didn't know if it was going to be just men or women, but it turned out it was a women's prison. It was an open prison. And they asked me if I'd come along and I would sort of just see how I felt about it. Well, I kid you not, Matt, from the minute I walked into that prison, I just felt I was in the right place. There was just something about it that was talking to me. And I sort of chatted to the people who were funding it. It was a big funded government project at the time. And they said, what do you think? And I just absolutely loved it. I mean, there's more stories with that for another time, but I absolutely loved this idea of coming in here and being able to help women who were ready to go onto the other side, who'd paid the debt back to society, who'd made mistakes. And so many of us, myself included, had judgments about women in prison and what they were like. I thought, that they were going to be covered in tattoos and, they'll be this. And they were nothing like that at all. They were lovely, kind, caring women who just made a mistake, been in the wrong place at the wrong time, and shared their stories with me. And each one of those stories I found myself resonating with, because I'd been in that place. I'd been in a place of domestic violence. I'd been in a place of past depression, and I'd been in a place of where I just felt that I was worthless because of that relationship. I was worthless, no self-belief, and I could sit and listen, and I could feel tears in my eyes always. And I always had to really keep myself composed when they used to share stories of domestic violence and how they'd been badly treated. And again, more ideas were forming. I was thinking about the fact that some of those women were women who, street workers, prostitutes, whatever name you want to give it. Others were solicitors. So I was working with this massive, broad spectrum of women, and I thought, well, just a minute. All these women are inside prison. There's women outside of prison as well who've got the same problems and issues. So whether you are a CEO of a leading company or somebody who wants to be a stay-at-home housewife, it doesn't really matter. They've all got the same issues. But the difference is a CEO of a leading company might not want to admit she's in a compromising relationship with domestic violence. And so my business was born from all this and my experiences, and another idea about, I know I can set a project for women in the community. This is a rural area. There's not a lot of support, and that's what I did. I got the funding for that. I set that up, and that just grew and grew and grew and grew. So I kind of, all the while, I was kind of just bringing different people in from different backgrounds and nurturing them and helping them to see that there was another way possible. So now I'm sort of 20 odd years into this. It's just continuing to grow and blossom and evolve to where I am now, sat with you, Mark. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. I'm just so just grateful to be here.
So from a past of not having your voice and going through domestic violence, but your communication skills led you to empower women in prison and then to go on to do your own projects. That's a really empowering story, from not having your voice to then finding your voice, but then helping other women and other clients to find their voices. It's a very inspiring story, Annette. So share a little bit about your business now and what you do, Annette.
So now, again, I work with a wide spectrum of women from different backgrounds. So I've got people that I work with locally who live in the local area. I've got I've got a doctor that I worked with in Hawaii. So both different kinds of women, both with different kinds of challenges. I've got people that I've worked with who've been in relationship challenges and kind of where they feel stuck. So they're actually stuck where they are, whether it be relationship or something else, Mark. There's always this feeling of being stuck and not being able to move forward. And that thing about finding their own voice. So one example in particular is about a lady who I worked with for a couple of years. She was in a really bad relationship and she was ready to walk away with nothing and just move on into the sunset. And I thought, not on my watch. No way, not on my watch. She could not find her voice. She couldn't find it enough to stand up. So I worked with her for a long time. And just this last Christmas, actually, Mark, I think I was in the shower at the time. The door went, my husband answered the door. I heard voices and everything. And I came out the shower afterwards and my husband said, oh, look, this has been left for you. So I went downstairs and I opened this basket, and within this basket there was this card and lots of, can you believe this? Lots of homemade baking. Well, I'm gluten-free, and this I didn't know who it was from at the time, but there was all sorts of cakes in it and everything. I thought, my goodness. Sorry, I keep losing these, Mark. But my goodness, where's this come from? Anyway, I opened this card and it said, I just wanted to let you know that my divorce became final this week and I finally got the settlement that I deserved. I couldn't have done it without you, and this is just only a small token of my appreciation of how you've helped me find my own voice. So that even now I can feel that, Mark, in my heart and everything about how the way that I worked with her helped her to come right through that period in her life to come through the other side. She's buying her own house now. She's starting her life over again, and she's in a much happier, better place. But it wasn't always the case. So it's just looking at somebody and taking those problems and being able to work through that and help them believe in themselves that they do deserve it. They can have a better life, so they can actually come through the other side. Similarly with the doctor in Hawaii, hers was just around, this is where I am. I want to do something for myself, but I'm working in a hospital and I just don't know how to break free. I don't know how to take those steps forward. So again, it was break it down, look at the vision, look at the why, look at the strategies. And it's not all, for me, it's not always about just using strategies alone. There are, I'm very intuitive. I can tune into people's emotions, how they're feeling, and help them where they feel blocked. So there's lots of different ways that I help people. So there's that side of it. There's the podcasting things that I'm doing with people at the moment that I'm guesting on. There's the writing that I do. And I think for me now, doing this kind of thing with yourself and the work that I am doing just leads me more into the communication and sharing and helping others learn how to communicate effectively and share their own stories in their own lives.
It's really great that you're supporting people who have lost their voices, Annette, and you have been there, so you really know how to support them with your great communication skills. We are coming up to a commercial break, and we will touch a little bit more on people out there that may feel stuck, that need to move forwards, Annette, because we have all been locked down for over a year. Domestic violence has obviously gone up because people are stuck in with their abusers or people that are manipulating them. So I think it's really important we touch on a few tips of people out there that may be feeling stuck. So stay with us. Join us after the commercial break. We have been joined with Annette Greenwood. She has shared how she had no voice. She has been through domestic violence and how her communication skills led her to working in women's prisons and supporting them to move forwards. She shared a little bit about her business and how she helps her clients that are feeling stuck to move forwards. Join us after the commercial break. Welcome back to Brilliance Business TV. We're here with Annette Greenwood. Before the commercial break, she has shared her story of having no voice, going through domestic violence that led her on a path to helping women to find their voices and supporting women in prisons. She has shared about her business, how she supports her clients that are feeling stuck to move forwards. Welcome back, Annette.
Thank you for welcoming me back, Mark.
So, Annette, I know spirituality is really, really important to you, and it is to me as well. I'm very spiritual. How did you find spirituality, and how important is it to you?
It's really important to me, Mark. It's probably one of the most, other than my family and my friends, one of the most important things that I have in my life, and it's the thing that keeps me steering in the right direction. So if it's a bit like being on a ship, isn't it? And you're going out to sea and you know you're going in the wrong direction, that kind of spirituality brings me back and keeps me back on course. And I found it in the most strangest way. I'd often wondered what it was and what it meant. And it wasn't until I, going back to that job where I'd been made redundant, I went into a really dark place because I felt useless. You know, I'd already been through a relationship where I'd been told I was useless, so it must be true. I've been made redundant now, and that all through those challenging times, and I plunged further and further and further down. And I remember going to see my GP, and I said, "Look, I don't know what's going on. I've never felt like this before. I feel really stressed. I'm not sleeping. I'm anxious." And he just said, "Well, the best thing to do is look upwards and outwards." And I thought, what does that mean? What did upwards and outwards mean? When you're in this black hole, upwards and outwards you can't even comprehend that. And I tried varying things, counselling, I tried psychotherapy, and I wanted to find a way of helping myself, but it wasn't going anywhere. And in honest to truth, Mark, was I was getting into a really bad place and I was starting to feel suicidal. And I was driving down a road in the car, one of the back roads in the area that we live in. And if anybody's ever had depression or anxiety, you get all sorts of negative thoughts. You're consumed, aren't you, by negative emotions. And whatever was going on in my head was saying, "Oh, go on then, go on, run yourself off the road, go on, you're not worth it." And for one split second, I turned the steering wheel off the road. And something inside me, and to this day, I don't know what it was, said, "No, you don't." And I just pulled this car, hoisted. I didn't have power steering then either, Mark. So it was a bit of a struggle. So I pulled this car back off the road and I just went, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to find help. I will find help. And in a newspaper, there was a newspaper article about train your mind to fight depression. And I thought, what is that? That is something really I've not heard of. It's really different. And there was a telephone number in it. And I rang the telephone number, and this doctor answered the phone and said, look, this is something different than you'll ever have experienced. But if you want to give it a try, come and see me. So I thought I was going to some doctor's surgery, but I wasn't. I ended up going down to, it was Oxford at the time, got on the train to go there to be faced with this very sort of well-dressed, very well-spoken gentleman who was a doctor, being a psychiatrist and all those kind of things. But he's actually trained in Zen Buddhism. So his whole ethos was around not just having to pump yourself with medication. They'd given me some kind of antidepressants, and I just felt frozen. I felt frozen in time, as though I wasn't going anywhere. I could feel my heart beating at this really slow rate, that the stuff that they'd given me. But everything else, I couldn't function. I thought, no, I just can't live like this. And I started to work with him, and it was about a month after that I started to see changes, and I could start to, as my mood was lifting, I was starting to feel a bit much more like my old self again. And I thought, this is it. I found something. This is where I need to be. This is my path in terms of coming through the other side of this depression and everything. So I committed myself to it, and I continued working with it. And so it's called the practice, as I call it. I remember going on holiday to Scotland with my husband, and we went into these I think it was a park, and I was walking, and I just had this overwhelming feeling of peace and deep peace. And in my heart, it felt so peaceful and quiet. Mark, I can't believe these earbuds. So I had this overwhelming feeling of peace and spirituality. And I thought, oh, is this it? Is this thing that I've been searching for all these years? This feeling of peace. Obviously, there was more to it than that. But I remember ringing him and saying, this is a spiritual practice, isn't it? And he said, yes, but you've got to learn. You had to learn for yourself to be able to deal with your emotions, live with your emotions, accept your emotions, adapt, learn to meditate, learn about forgiveness, learn about acceptance. It sounds so easy, doesn't it, when you say, oh, spirituality? There's much more to it than it sounds, and it's a hard road to go down to get here. But coming from the head to the heart, if you like, is a journey only you can make. And so now that is how I live, Mark. That is my life. I do live like this. It's second nature to me, and I do share and help other women when I'm working with them with that, if they so choose me to. I'm also gifted with a high sense of intuition, and I can tap into other people's energy, and I'm able to share information that may help them move forward in their own life again. So there's so many elements to it, really, that form spirituality for me.
A bit like you, Annette, it's in dark times. Sometimes you go through really dark places where it takes you in those depressed states, stress, anxiety, depression, in your case, wanting to end things. That is sometimes when we find spirituality, and it's a hard journey, but then it can be a great lesson that does help us to grow and then go on to serve others, which you have definitely done. Thank you for sharing your story and being vulnerable. And it's really going to inspire people out there that there's always hope and you should never suffer alone. So I think it's important now, Annette, that we just share some tips, because there will be people out there who have had a really tough year. They may be depressed. They may be feeling suicidal. People have gone out of business. Relationships will have suffered from being locked locked down with people that maybe are not the best for you. I'm not saying everyone out there, some people may be great, but I know there are a lot of people who are struggling. You mentioned some great tips earlier, which I do use, which is like gratitude, meditation, visualization, or spiritual practices that do really help you to move forwards. So can you just give us some tips, inspiration for anyone out there who may be struggling with depression, who are struggling relationships or business or just life in general, to start to move forwards, Annette?
My pleasure again. And I think one of the important things is that this year has taught us all, isn't it, about nothing stays the same, and that we were all maybe booking holidays and looking to move house and do all these other wonderful things that life afforded us until the pandemic hit. And that made us all rethink our lives, made me rethink mine as well. And I've heard different stories from people that that I've been talking to, and they've shared things with me. So I'd like to touch on the relationship side of it first, if I may. That because of the domestic violence and the increase in that, there's been so much more help and support out there by the police and other organisations that work exclusively with not just women, but men as well, who struggle with
Yes.
domestic violence, and people having to work from home and be confined together and things like that. And if you're still in that situation, it's so important to have a buddy. So if you're husband and wife, or same-sex relationship, living at home, working together, and it's an uncompromising relationship, try and find an outside buddy, whether that be a friend or something where you can go online safely and share and get supported. Also, I think it's an opportunity to reflect on whether this relationship is actually serving you longer term, because I'm not saying this is going to happen again, and none of us want this to happen again, but to have to be confined in a relationship that's restricting you, both sort of emotionally, spiritually, mentally, in every way, might not be the best thing for you. And I do know there are people who are feeling that way because of this trapped and stuck element again, that when we come out the other side of this, they want to make changes. It's important to, if you have a family member or a trusted friend, to share with them and not feel that you're alone. The thing about having to be together 24 hours a day is really difficult. Take the opportunity, I know the weather's been really awful, but take the opportunity to go out on your own and just take some time and give you time, some time to reflect, whether that's just being in nature, whether that's picking a book up of inspiration that will give you some insight into what you may need to do next. Somebody like me, or if it isn't me, somebody else who can maybe help you focus and help you go where you need to go. Just little sort of strategies like that. Write down 3 things in your life that are really important, that are unrelated to that relationship. And maybe that'll give you the strength to realise that you can come through this and changes can be made, and they can be made positively. Similarly, in work situations and things as well. So many people have lost their businesses, and I know as some people have lost them, Mark, some have opened and thrived. And it's so easy for us, isn't it, to keep focused on what's gone wrong, what's happened, and all the bad stuff. But if we can sort of retrain our brain, if you like, rethink about things, about what else can come out of this, what going forward, what can I do? What's the one thing that I can do to take a step in a new direction? What's happened has happened. We can't change that now. There's just nothing we can do about that. That's gone. But we have to move forward. We can't stay stuck forever. And it might be that some of the skills that you had or have, you can put into something new. There's always the opportunity for change and growth if we can see it. Instead of us focusing on what's bad and all the crap that's gone on, we need to focus on what else we can do and inspire ourselves and gather strong people, influence ourselves with positive people, and take strength and comfort from other businesses actually that are thriving and move forward with that. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Associations are so important. Associate with people that lift you up, confide in a friend, mentor, teacher, family member. And like you mentioned, there's always hope at the end of the tunnel. And also you mentioned not to focus just on the negative, which human beings do tend to just focus on the bad, where you need to switch your mind to the good, and then over time, little steps, it will improve. You shared some great skills and tips there that will help people to move forward, Annette. We're coming to the last 5 minutes of the show. I would just like to share a little bit about your book, Imprisoned Hearts. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Annette?
So that book was born out of an argument with some friends about how women who turned to prostitution were the scum of the earth. So they were their words, not mine. And I had this in the back of my mind, one of these days I'm actually going to stand up and say something about this. And when I went to work at the prison, the first woman I worked with, she was a lady of the night, as she liked to call herself. And she shared her story with me about again, domestic violence, compromising relationships, the pimp that she had, her children, how they were taken off her, all these kind of really bad things and dark things that had happened to her. And it gave me the idea to write a novel. And the novel was called Imprisoned Heart because within that story, it's a story of triumph over adversity. So the message really is, no matter how bad things get, there is hope, as you've just said earlier, and we can triumph. It might mean that we can't do it on our own, because at times we all like to think we're independent and can stand tall, but there are times where we need other people to support us. And within that story, within the journey of Katrina, who's the main character, she ends up going to prison, wrongly accused of a crime through a bad relationship she's got into. And within that prison, she's confined in a cell, so she's imprisoned in mind and in heart. So she's got the whole thing going on there. She hates herself, she hates the world. But then she meets somebody called another name. So that was actually me in the book, if you like. So I come into the story and I help her to uncover her mind, uncover her heart, open it up and learn to love, like, and accept herself and trust in herself, and that she's worth better, and she can believe in herself, and all these sort of dark things she's got locked away in her body and in her heart, we open all those up so she can start to heal and move forward. I don't want to do spoilers or anything, but it's a really empowering story with some romance in it, with some real sort of nasty bits in it as well. But the other side of it shows that we can triumph, and that is always my message. We can triumph over adversity, no matter how bad things are. Even now, there will be something good come out of this. There will be.
Imprisoned Hearts. Where can everyone watching get a hold of it, Annette?
It's available on Amazon under my real name. I don't have a pseudonym or anything, under Annette Greenwood. And I'd be really interested to know what people think of it. I really would when they've read it.
Annette, I've really enjoyed having a conversation with you today. My final question, or not a question, but can you just share a few words of wisdom to close the show of anyone that may be suffering with suicidal thoughts, depression, struggling business, struggling in their personal lives? Just give us a few words of wisdom, please.
I would say, no matter where you are now, no matter how dark it is, and I do know what that's like, we all know what that's like, there's one guarantee that I can give you, and that is this: nothing stays the same. In 6 months, 6 weeks, even 6 days, things will be different to where they are now. And if you can just cling on to that hope that nothing stays the same and things will change again, and reach out, please reach out. then you will find yourself, maybe you're not going to wake up tomorrow and feel brilliant about the world as things are, but you will know, and even if you put it on a vision board on your wall or write it down in your diary or on your desktop on your computer, nothing stays the same. Things will change, and they will change in a positive way, because that is the nature of life. The balances and imbalances, the negative and the positive, it has to change, and it will change, and that is my solemn guarantee, I promise.
Annette, thank you so much for being on Brilliance Business TV. I've really enjoyed having a conversation with you.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for being here, and to the audience who may listen to this now and or later. It's been my absolute pleasure. It really has, and a delight. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Today on Brilliance Business TV, we have heard Annette Greenwood's story of having no voice, going through domestic violence, to having great communication skills that led her to support women in prison to move forwards in a positive way. We've heard her spirituality journey of being at rock bottom and wanting to commit suicide, that has led her on a path that is to serve and empower other women and other men, that there is light at the end of the tunnel and there is always hope for a positive future. Thank you everyone for watching Brilliance Business TV. Until next time, bye for now.